Why aren't you saluting the general? The officer's voice cut through the assembly hall like a blade. A young woman stood at the back, arms at her side, posture perfectly upright, but she didn't raise her hand. What could make someone defy a direct order in front of everyone? Soldiers turned, whispering, "Who does she think she is?" The general himself stepped closer. She looked him straight in the eye and said 7 words. "You left my unit to die, sir." The room froze. Her name was Jaden Guuen, 29 years old, petite, composed, always in a standard tech support uniform with no rank insignia on the shoulder. Jade worked at Remote Tactical Base Bravo in logistics and technical coordination. She arrived before sunrise every single day without fail. She calibrated training systems, checked ammunition logs, cleaned the shooting range before anyone else arrived, organized supply inventories, maintained communication equipment. Most officers barely noticed her existence. Some assumed she was just an assistant or a clerk or maybe a contractor. A few young recruits called her the ghost in the back room. She never protested, never complained, never asked for recognition or acknowledgement. But those who observed closely noticed something different about Jade. She fixed targeting arrays faster than most junior officers. She never flinched at the sound of gunfire. Even during live fire exercises, her hands never shook, even under pressure. She spoke in technical terms that surprised seasoned soldiers. She knew weapon specifications, ballistics data, tactical frequencies by heart, but she kept quiet, always in the background, always invisible. That morning, a special event was scheduled at the base. General Gregory, a celebrated war hero with 3 combat tours, would tour the facility and deliver a leadership speech to all personnel. All military and civilian staff were required to line up in formation and salute when he entered. Jade stood at the back of the assembly hall, silent and still, hands clasped behind her back. As the general entered with his entourage of colonels and majors, everyone raised their hands in perfect military salute. Everyone except her. Why would one woman risk everything to stand alone? A lieutenant noticed first. He snapped, "You, civilian or not, stand at attention and salute the general." Jade didn't move, didn't blink, didn't speak. The murmurs spread through the crowd like wildfire. Is she serious? What's wrong with her? Show some respect. Who does she think she is? The general himself, puzzled by the growing commotion, walked forward through the crowd. His voice was calm but firm. "Is there a problem here, specialist?" The entire assembly hall held its breath. Cameras were rolling for the promotional video. And then she spoke, her voice quiet but crystal clear, cutting through the silence. "You left my unit to die, sir." Real Stories Diary invites you to reflect. Have you ever seen someone kind be ignored or disrespected? Comment below, "That's unfair." The general blinked, genuinely confused, studying her face. "I don't recognize you. What unit are you referring to?" Jade's answer came softly, but it hit like a thunderbolt. Raven 12, Firebase Red Echo, October 15, 2016. The name dropped like a stone into still water. Officers nearby suddenly stiffened. A few looked away, some swallowed hard. One major's face went completely pale. The general's aide whispered something in his ear, but the general waved him off. I don't recall that specific operation." "You should," Jade replied simply. After the ceremony ended in awkward silence, a major approached Jade privately in the corridor. "That operation was classified. You shouldn't be discussing." She cut him off quietly. "I was there. I watched my captain bleed out in my arms because his command, ordered an extraction for everyone except us." That evening, a young intelligence analyst named Thompson began digging through archived files. He accessed fragments of an old after-action report buried in the classified database. Raven 12 was a 6-person reconnaissance unit embedded deep behind enemy lines for surveillance. During a coordinated ambush, their emergency extraction was suddenly rerouted to another grid coordinate by a direct override order from higher command, signed by then Colonel Gregory. Mission status: total unit loss. No survivors confirmed, but there was a discrepancy at the bottom of the report. One name marked as unverified survivor account, Jaden Guuen, technical sergeant, status, unreliable witness due to combat trauma. Thompson dug deeper into personnel records. A communications technician from another unit recalled the incident. There was a woman who crawled back into base 2 days later, half burned, no supplies, severely dehydrated, but still carrying her team's dog tags. She was babbling about an override, about being abandoned. Command debriefed her for hours, then sealed the report. Said her account was unreliable due to psychological trauma. We never saw her again after that. The dots were connecting like pieces of a horrifying puzzle. Thompson shared his findings with a small group of trusted officers. The revelations spread quietly through the base like smoke. Suddenly, Jade's daily routine took on new meaning: her early arrivals, her meticulous work, her unwavering composure under pressure, her technical expertise. She wasn't just a tech support worker. She was a soldier who had been erased from history. A survivor who had been silenced. The woman they ignored every day, the ghost in the back room, was the sole survivor of an operation that officially never had survivors. People began to remember small details about her. How she always ate alone in the cafeteria. How she never joined social gatherings. How she sometimes stared at the flag during morning ceremonies but never participated. How she kept a small collection of dog tags in her desk drawer. They had assumed she was antisocial or shy or maybe just didn't care. Now they realized she was carrying ghosts. Real Stories Diary asks, have you ever judged someone without knowing what they've survived? Comment below, I was wrong. General Gregory called for a closed-door meeting the next morning. Inside the conference room, base commanders, senior staff, intelligence officers, and Jade. The atmosphere was tense, electric. The general spoke first, his voice measured but defensive. I've reviewed the available files. I don't recall ordering any team to be left behind. I trust my combat decisions were sound and necessary. Jade reached into her jacket and placed a scorched metal plate on the polished conference table. A partial ID tag, burned black at the edges, barely readable. That belonged to Captain Martinez, the last person who saluted you while requesting immediate medical evacuation for our wounded. She pulled out a small, worn notebook, pages yellowed with age. Each page held handwritten entries, names, ranks, blood types, final radio transmissions, medical status updates, her team's last records logged manually while under enemy fire. The room stayed completely silent as she flipped through the pages. Sergeant Williams took shrapnel to the chest, protecting our radio operator. He died, calling for extraction that never came. Corporal Chen held our position for 6 hours with a collapsed lung. She died believing help was on the way. Private Rodriguez, 19 years old, bled out asking me to tell his mother he was brave. Specialist Kim, our medic, used his own medical supplies to keep me alive. He died so I could carry this story home. Private Thompson, our youngest, held my hand and made me promise to remember them all. Each name, each story, hit the room like a physical blow. General Gregory's hands trembled slightly as he flipped through the notebook. Page after page of meticulous records, ammunition counts, casualty reports, weather conditions, enemy positions, all written in the same steady handwriting, even as the situation deteriorated. These are incredibly detailed, he whispered. Jade nodded. I was the communication specialist. It was my job to document everything. She pulled out a small radio transcript, handwritten on military letterhead. This is the last transmission from Captain Martinez to your command post. Raven 12 to command. We have 3 Kia, 2 critical wounded. Requesting immediate medevac at grid 41 SMB 12,345. We are combat ineffective but holding position. Please advise. Your response, transmitted at 1,347 hours, was, Raven 12, redirect to grid 41 SMB 54,321, higher priorities elsewhere, out. That grid coordinate was 12 kilometers away through enemy territory with no transportation. We couldn't move our wounded. The general's voice cracked. I wasn't told your team survived long enough to document all this. Jade replied simply, "We didn't survive, sir." "I did. That's enough." She stood up, and for the first time, her voice carried the weight of command. "I'm not here to destroy your career, General. I'm not here for revenge or justice. I'm here so that no one ever forgets the cost of a quiet order. You made a tactical decision. I understand that. But 5 people died because of it. And for 8 years, I've carried their memory in silence. Today, I needed you to know their names." General Gregory slowly stood. For the first time in his decorated career, he saluted her. Officers nearby, once dismissive, now stood at attention. Not for the general, but for Jade. She didn't return the salute. She simply nodded, then walked toward the door. Before leaving, she placed the notebook and dog tags on the table. "These don't belong to me anymore. They belong to history." Real Stories Diary asks, if you were ever helped by someone who got no recognition, comment below. I owe someone. Jade remained at the base, still working logistics and technical support. But now, people greeted her with quiet respect. She was invited to speak at a leadership conference, a veterans memorial service, a military academy graduation. She refused them all. Let those who didn't come back speak instead through how we serve. Her locker was found to contain personal items she'd never mentioned, letters from families of her fallen unit members, written to her over the years. Small mementos, a patch from Sergeant Williams, a challenge coin from Corporal Chen, a red ribbon from Private Rodriguez, each with initials carefully embroidered. She had been their unofficial memorial, carrying their memory in silence for 8 years. Over the following months, the base quietly honored Raven 12. A memorial wall was installed near the main entrance with their unit emblem and motto, "They held the line." She walked it home. No fanfare, no speeches, no media coverage, just recognition. General Gregory personally funded the memorial. He also quietly arranged for the official record to be amended, acknowledging the sacrifice of Raven 12. Then one morning, Jade was gone. A note left on her desk simply said, "I'm not disappearing. I just needed the truth to stand. Even if I walk away, the mission is complete." No parade, no farewell ceremony, no forwarding address, just an empty workstation, and a room that never quite felt the same. Later, they discovered she had quietly transferred to another remote base, still working logistics, still arriving before sunrise, still serving in silence, still carrying the weight so others don't have to. Some say she continues to transfer from base to base, always in the background, always invisible, always remembering. The memorial wall remains, visited quietly by soldiers who understand. And sometimes, on October 15th, someone leaves 6 small American flags there, one for each member of Raven 12. Real Stories Diary invites you to comment, "I will live with integrity." If you believe quiet truth is louder than applause, Jade's story teaches us something profound. Not everyone who stands silently is being disrespectful. Some stand still because they once stood alone when no one else came. The salute she refused wasn't rebellion. It was remembrance. A moment she refused to fake for the sake of those who never got a second chance. In a world obsessed with formality, she brought truth. You may encounter someone like Jade, quiet, distant, not clapping, not saluting, not joining the crowd. Before you judge, ask yourself, what might they be carrying that you'll never see? What battles have they fought that history forgot? What truth are they protecting by refusing to pretend? Because sometimes the most honest gesture is no gesture at all. And sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who held the line when it mattered most. Remember Jade. Remember Raven 12. Remember that honor isn't always loud. If this story moved you, comment below. I see you. Stay tuned for more powerful stories on Real Stories Diary.